a person who creates, and you know this, right? Like you always want to take it to another level, but there's limitations, you know, like whether it's time constraints, whether it's, you know, family obligations, whether it's financial obligations, it's always something, right? Like your job obligation, because you can't just always do what you want to do. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
No, that's real life, man. I mean, I think that's balance is really, really important, man. You got to find the right balance, man. You can't give too much to one and not the other, and expect to, you know, continue with the livelihood that you want to continue with, man, because one is feeding you, the other one is like feeding you kind of like passionately and creatively, but man, it gets real slippery, man, if you you know, if you're imbalanced, you know what I mean? I don't disagree at all. I try to find those pockets of time where, you know, I just go like as much as I can, and then I got to do my work. You know what I'm saying? I got to go get money.
Like I've known you for quite a while, right? So like, you know, at one point in time, you had dealing with trying to do music, right? And you were consistent with that too, man. You know, you made music. Like you wasn't like just a lot of people like say they're gonna do something and don't do anything, or they start and they don't finish. But you truly like you made stuff, you made music, you did. But at the same time, you had a day job. You know,
man, I was working. You know what I mean? And it wasn't just me. I mean, I was able to do that because of, you know, really good friends and you know, people who had businesses at that point, man, and still do. You know, and I was able to be an artist in that space and do a lot of the promotion and stuff like that, man, do the shows and prep for things like that, of course. But, you know, when it came down to it, it just got to a point where it was like, you know, like, look, man, the money, you know, this isn't working. Like, you know, and unfortunately at that point, man, just being young and just kind of naive, I think this was like, all right, well, I got to figure something else out. You know, I think again, man, it ties back to like the balance, man, and like figuring it out and being comfortable with, you know, for me, man, I was stepping into a lot of different things at that point too, man. It was like stepping into a marriage, stepping into, you know, a real relationship, like moving into a house, like looking at what my wife wanted at that point and try to, you know, really trying to be like, all right, well, shit, I want this to happen. Definitely. I want to still be able to do this. You know what I'm saying? Like something's got to give. And at that point I was like, okay, this is where I prioritize my relationship. You know, it was kind of making that decision at that point. And I'm happy that I did. Don't misunderstand. But, you know, it was really, again, trying to find that balance. You know what I mean?
A lot of people don't ever talk about that part, right? Is that even when it's not just a decision about what you want to do, right? Or you know, it's also like, so at a certain stage in life, you want certain things, right? Like for me, I made a hard decision. I wanted to own a home, right? I made a hard decision. I wanted to be in a committed relationship and have a family. That's just whether I talked about it or not, right? Whether I ever told anybody else, that was something I always knew that I wanted in the back of my mind. Right. And I tell people all the time, man, be selfish in your 20s, right? Like go hard. Like honestly, I don't understand why anybody is in a relationship, a serious relationship in their 20s. Now that doesn't mean you shouldn't, because some people get married in their 20s. My parents married early. Totally. It's great. But if you're already like kind of on a path and you're following a career path, blow it out in your 20s. But just know that there's like milestones in life where you got to kind of do a self-reflection and think about what is it you really want, right? So for me, I told myself at 30 I wanted to own a home. Thank God I was able to achieve that goal. And I still, to this day, whether, you know, I'll say I was proud of myself for making the decision and following through that decision, right? But at the same time, I also decided I wanted to find a woman who was fit to be a wife. So you did the same thing, right? And that's like those things. And so all that stuff makes it harder for you to then be selfish or to be all about whatever that particular goal was, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's that balance, man, and kind of like prioritizing, like what is more important at this stage of the game. You know what I mean? Like it got to a point where, you know, and I don't ever feel like it was going to be either this or Tanya, you know, this or
you could have them both, but you gotta, like you said, it's proportions, right? How much of yourself are you going to indulge? How much of and you also need to work because you got to make money to have things, right? If you want to own a home, you got to work, right? It's like you got to ration out your day or your time. Here's the thing too, though, and I'll say this, and I don't have no problem saying it. I've never been a believer in the idea that there was like one person that was perfect for me, right? So at the same time, I also didn't believe that I had to have this particular, like there are people who, if they're not mothers or fathers, or if they don't have a family, like they believe that life isn't really what they wanted it to be and they regret, right? Like, I think that it's all about decisions, right? So I feel like if I had made the choice to say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to go hard on this, like on this journalism, hip hop thing, or I'm just going to go hard in this creative space. I think that I'm a person who really understands how to live with like consequences or live with the ramifications of my decisions.
Yeah.
So I also think that I could be happy in both spaces, right? I think that for me, fulfillment wasn't necessarily about having a family. However, being a kid who grew up in a family, I always wanted to have one, right? And also, man, my kids are the greatest thing that ever happened to me. But I also don't think that, I think that if I had said, hey, you know what, I'm just going to like really indulge heavy on myself and be like this creative dude, I would have been fulfilled. Yeah. I'm not a FOMO guy, right? Like I don't believe in like, I didn't get this and I wish I had it. Like I never understood that. Like because life is about you. To me, at the end of the day, it's about your personal growth, your personal achievement. Now it becomes about more than yourself once you involve other people, right? At this point, I live for my kids. However, like that experience is my experience. Like me raising my children is my experience as a father. I want to pour into them, but I also don't regret any decisions I made. Now, had I never had children, sorry, Jackson and Isaac, I think I could have had a completely fulfilled life. I would just fill that space and time with other things. Like some people can't, they just want to jump out the window if they don't have a baby. You know what I mean? I never, personally, it's just a weird thing. I never understood that. Like because for me, all that matters is what I'm doing right now. Yeah. To be honest, I know any day it could be the end of it. So I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
No, I don't disagree with that at all, man. We may be similar in that regard, man, because like, you know what I'm saying? I can go in a direction and not even think about anything else and just be like, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm going. Bump it. You know what I'm saying? And to circle back to what you were saying, like if I can't imagine now my life without Knox, or Kanye for that matter. But if they didn't happen from a fulfillment standpoint, I feel like I would still be happy and fulfilled in some capacity.
You would fill that space with something else meaningful.
With something else.
Right. It's something meaningful. Like for me, because like there are people who like their career is their life, right? And I get that, right? But I also get like that, once again, there's nothing like, I'll say I've never felt more joy than like when I was able to, like certain times when I'm around my kids. Yeah. Once again, though, I mean, like, you knew me for a long time, Clete. I was in some spaces, bro. I would cut that part. I was in some spaces where personal achievement could have been enough to feed me.
Be sure to visit FlyDialogue.com to find out more about us, including our radio station where we stream hip hop 24/7. Yo, we're literally jamming as we speak. We got a craft beer blog called Cream. Craft rules everything around me. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, the craft beer app called Untapped, or on YouTube. Just search Fly Dialogue on all these platforms. Be sure to follow us and friend us, subscribe to us. Long story short, check us out. We'd love to have y'all and we look forward to connecting with you. And let's talk soon.